Hey everybody, Mark Herman, aka LA Bengals fan on most of the major platforms, and I am joined here as always with Jake Circus from the Jake Circus podcast, and this is Week 13's preview of Jungle Talk. Yeah, all right, so we're going to do what we usually do. We're going to preview this week's game coming up, and it's a big one against Kansas City. And we'll talk about the things we're feeling good about, things we're not feeling good about, and then we'll give you our score prediction. Please feel free to put your predictions down in the comments. Love to see the interaction. And if you don't subscribe, please subscribe. It's all we ask. Just hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, and help us out with the thumbs up. It helps us out with the algorithm on YouTube. So before we get started, Jake, tell them where they can find all your stuff. I know you do multiple podcasts, so tell them all about your stuff.
Yeah, I've actually got some fun stuff planned. Today I just released, had a good guest on. We talked about some college football championship weekend, but we did a full-on X's and O's dive in for the Bengals Chiefs game that came out this morning. So that was pretty good. We kind of talked about really the evolution of the Bengals since last year, how they got better in the offseason, clearly because of the offensive line, but how they've adjusted during this season. They started slow, and now where they're sitting right now as they're hitting their ceiling as one of the best offenses in the NFL because of all the playmakers they have. And now the chase factor comes back, which is funny because it's all coming full circle because we were on the show 5 or 6 weeks ago and saying, let's just get Chase back for the KC game. That's what we're going to target.
Right.
And now it's game week and he's talking crap, and Justin Reid, this bum comes in and says, I'm going to shut all these guys. Like, come on. It's funny, but yeah, so that just came out today. I've got some college football bowl game content coming out in the future, as well as obviously the weekly podcast that come out Monday and Wednesdays for the NFL.
Hey, where did you see SC? Because I'm an SC guy. So
I'm also an SC guy. I hope they beat Utah. I really do.
yeah.
It's gonna be another tough game, but
Yeah, all this
they went to Salt Lake and should have won. And that's their only loss by 1 point all year. But
right
we'll see.
on the last play of the game. So
I always like this time of year when like the revenge factor comes into play. It's always one of my favorite angles in sports, and USC obviously has ridiculous revenge because Utah's their only loss so far.
And that wasn't even planned, but what a great segue into the things I'm not feeling good about. And what I'm not feeling good about is the fact that we swept these guys last year. So if this is Andy Reid, this is Patrick Mahomes, believe me, they're not overlooking us. They're not overconfident. There's none of that. They're coming in to show that they're the best, and we're the big blemish. We kept them out of last year's Super Bowl, and we're the big blemish on their resume right now. So that is something that concerns me, because this is, like I said, this is a well-coached team, and this is a talented team. So make no mistakes. If we win, this is going to be a hard-fought victory.
Both games last year were very different lead-ups. The game in early January, basically December, it was like January 2nd, I think it was, right after New Year's. That game last year was like, Chiefs are the best. Bengals trying to win the division, but we don't expect them to win the division this week. They're going to beat Cleveland the next week, and then they'll win the division. And here the Bengals come. They beat them. They come back from 21 points down. They beat them at home. Here they are. And they go on the playoff run. And then in the matchup 3 or 4 weeks later for the AFC Championship game, then the revenge factor came in. KC was still the top dog. They had won the AFC the previous 2 years. But they had revenge on their minds in that game because they wanted to beat Cincinnati again. This time it was on their own home turf, so they had that going for them. But they got blown out in the Super Bowl 11 months before that game, so they had the revenge factor. Now this year, I think it's a lot more similar to the AFC Championship game, where there is a revenge factor. You poke the bear. Mahomes is upset. You piss him off, but I love the vibe with the team right now. They're releasing these hype videos like, you got to play us. I mean, this is a team that there was a vision 3 years ago. There was all these building blocks that they built towards, and now it's come true. Like, this is what we're seeing the last 4 or 5 weeks. They lose their best player. No one cares. They go 3-0 without him, look completely dominant, go on the road and win in a multitude of different ways. And the Bengals are coming into this game with more momentum than anyone. Chiefs are on a 5-game winning streak. Something has to give. I think it's going to be a complete shootout. But I'm not so nervous about the revenge factor because there was a lot of revenge, a lot of emotion in the game last year, and they shut Mahomes down for an entire half, which is really really hard to do. They did it twice last year, so
Right.
hoping to not have to do that in round three. Maybe the offense picks it up a little bit, scores for all four quarters instead of going dormant for an entire half. It's what they did twice last year. So I think that we're gonna see a different game between these two than what we saw last year.
Right. Well, I'd love to have a similar game to Tennessee where we get into this ugly kind of keep it close, but I don't know that that's what we're going to have. This is the highest over under of the games this week. It's 53. You have a
Of
couple.
course it is. Yeah.
Yeah, you have a couple 50 and a halves. The Detroit game, I think, is up there, but this is the highest over under of the week. So and we've got two good defenses. One of the other things is Mixon's supposed to be back. He's listed on the injury report. He's still in concussion protocol, but the expectation is he's going to return. Whether he does or he doesn't, this is what I don't expect him to have a huge game. If he does, it'll be receiving passes out of the backfield because this is a very good run defense that Kansas City has. So
Yeah. The Bengals and the Chiefs are, I think they're 11th and 13th in rushing yards allowed per carry. So they're above league average. Nothing ridiculous. The Bengals run defense was amazing last week. And some of those totals are very skewed because they gave up a lot to Cleveland when DJ Reader was out. There was another game too that I forget where they gave up a good bit of rushing. I think the Baltimore game they didn't have a great game. But yeah, they pretty much all year the Bengals run defense has came to play when they needed to. That's not KC's DNA. They're gonna sling it around the field. They're
yeah,
going to put pressure on the Bengals not having a number one corner. Bengals have kind of shifted to scheming around their back end instead of just playing man across the board. When you can do that when you have Cheeto on the field, they did it multiple times last year. They went into their super dime package for the second half in the AFC title game. Probably not going to be able to do that this time around. There's just not that good of personnel on the field. I think Eli Apple's having a worse year. And Trey Flowers was playing really well at this time last year, not so much this year. They're not crazy deep in the secondary, but they are deep on the defense, and they can get pressure. And they showed that the last couple of weeks. They have shown a lot of different looks. So I think the Bengals defense is coming into this spot in the right direction, but they were both times last year, and they looked like surprised, like they were seeing ghosts when Mahomes was on the other sideline, and it took a little bit for them to adjust. So we'll see. I keep trying to convince myself that it's not going to be as high scoring as I think it is, because I think when every time we do this in any game, not just Bengals games, but any game, both offenses are amazing. It's going to be 35-34, and then it never really is. But I just both these teams are so good on third down. They're so good in the red zone. I don't think there's going to be many field goals being kicked. I think that both offenses are clicking, have their identity. I just don't see how these teams are going to get stops.
yeah, no, I agree with you. But like I said, it's going to be through the air because the Chiefs are averaging 92 yards, giving up 92 yards running. So I don't see, they haven't gotten gashed. So
I
and the
also
Bengal
don't.
defense obviously is coming off their best. The last week's game was the best game of the year in terms of the way they approached it. I mean, they basically went into Tennessee and matched them punch for punch and beat them at their own game because they were more physical. So
And my one thing with Zach Taylor, this is what I really like about him, is he knows he knows who's on the other sideline, whether it's the head coach, the other quarterback, and he screens that to his guys very clearly, so they all get the message. They all know, yeah, Ryan Tannehill's on the other sideline. We're going to force him to beat us, and he didn't.
right.
And they shut down Derrick Henry again. We all knew that was what they were going to try to do. Thank goodness DJ Reader was there. There was a couple articles and videos that some very talented people over the last couple of days have put out highlighting DJ Reader and really what he does to that defense. And yeah, he's probably the third best player on the team. He's just sensational. I mean, I think I said this last week, 2 weeks ago on the show, since the moment he signed pen to paper in spring of 2020, the team got so much better.
Oh,
And it makes it so he's ridiculous, and he's just a force in the middle. Whether or not the opposing team is a good rushing attack, it just his presence in there just really helps.
Right. Well, we had talked 2 weeks ago, and when we did the recap, Reader wasn't 100% on his first game back against Pittsburgh.
Against Pittsburgh,
He
very
was
clear he
he
was
was
still.
back last week. There was no question. That
Yeah.
was DJ Reader, and so he's back. So I
And so in the preview for the Titans game, I remember saying that they were going to rely on him a lot. That if he's healthy, he's going to play a lot of snaps. And I think he played the most snaps he's played in a Bengals uniform, something like that. Maybe not that much, but he played a lot of snaps. Hubbard played a lot of snaps. I don't think they're going to ask him to do that against KC. They're probably not going to need to because there's not a true run threat on all three downs with KC. They're more of a pass first team,
right.
obviously, with Mahomes and Kelsey and all these dudes. But when his number was called on Sunday, when Mike Hilton was number was called, coming down in the box and
Yes.
making tackles behind the line of scrimmage, they all stepped up. And I know I wasn't here on the post game, but I'll just say that right now. They're again, Zach Taylor really visioned to his guys who is on the other sideline, and they all took that message to heart and understood it. They knew that Henry was there. They knew that Tannehill was there. They were going to have to win a close game, and that's kind of why a lot of Bengals games seem to be close, is because they don't play down to their competition, but they understand who their competition
Right.
is, and they do whatever it takes to game plan exactly enough for who they're playing.
Yeah. So, well, with the injury report, that's one of the things I like is that we're definitely healthier. I mean, we were saying before we started recording how if McKinnon isn't available and he didn't practice this today, he didn't practice. Tony didn't practice. Juju Smith-Schuster didn't practice. Juju's due to an illness, but if McKinnon's not available because of that hamstring, I mean, they basically have two running backs. But you know,
Yeah, they haven't gotten a lot of receiving production out of McKinnon. He's not really graded that highly. He only has 200 receiving yards. He has 29 catches, only one touchdown. Like their passing game goes through Travis Kelsey. So like the injury report is kind of a wash. Juju is back. He's gonna play. He had an illness, but he
yeah,
practiced full today. Juju's actually leading the team in yards per catch with just over 13. That's more than Kelsey actually, which is actually pretty shocking.
yeah.
So he's done exactly what's needed of him. But Kelsey's a guy who scares me. I mean,
No,
he's Travis Kelsey. There's not much to really say about him. Like Jesse Bates and Logan Wilson are going to have a very tough task on Sunday, and they know
yeah.
that.
Yeah, well, we've held Kelsey in check in the last two games, but with Tyreek Hill gone, Mahomes goes to Kelsey more than anything, and when he gets a head of steam going, I mean, he's a freight train. That guy's like I said, he's a problem. Just watch any game. He's a problem for any team. Um,
Yeah, and what makes Travis Kelsey so good is just the relationship that he has with Mahomes. I mean, if you look at the game logs and the difference between the amount of targets versus the amount of catches, when he's targeting when Mahomes targets Kelsey, the ball rarely ever hits the ground. That just says a lot about Mahomes and Kelsey. But in the game in the regular season last year, 7 targets, 5 catches, only 25 yards. Yes, he scored, but he only had 25 yards. I think the score was the score was like a 3-yard touchdown. But then in the conference championship game, 11 targets, 10 catches. He did go less than 10 yards a catch. Also had that touchdown in the first quarter. So yeah, I mean, the ball rarely ever hits the ground when Kelsey's being targeted. It just says a lot about the partnership and the duo that is them.
Yeah. So, well, good things also we're coming off, like I said, our best performance of the year. So this team's coming in with a ton of confidence, a ton of momentum. The game is in Cincinnati. That's a plus, not having to go to Arrowhead. And we will have Mixon and Chase back. Although, like I said, I don't expect the big game out of Mixon running wise. Chase, I don't know what we're going to see. He brings just his presence in the game because Boyd's been pretty quiet the last couple of weeks. Just his presence in the game will open things up for Tyler Boyd. So there's other options. He has an immediate impact, even if he doesn't have a lot of targets and he doesn't have a huge game. Just being out there, he's going to make it easier on Higgins and Boyd.
You know what I like is that I remember last year this time, Elizabeth Blackburn sent out a message to all the season ticket holders, and I know this because the Bengals captain and Bengals Jim, they posted it on Twitter. And she was like super excited that there was a playoff push. They're the first Bengals playoff push since 2015 when they went 12-4, won the division. And she said something about like the games coming after the bye were it went through Cincinnati, Steelers, Chargers, Niners, Ravens, Chiefs, all at home. 5 of their last 8 games were at home, or 5 of the last 7 games were at home. This
Right.
year, 4 of our last 6 games after the Titans game, we have 6 games left. 4 of
Right.
them are in the jungle. This
Yes.
push goes through the jungle. The Bengals are still the reigning champs of this conference, and they have a lot of home games against some really good teams. Uh, one of them's on prime time. Another one might be on prime time. The Ravens game. And they're home for both those, and they're home for this game. And the Bengals have proved to be one of the better home performing teams in football since they got Joe Burrow. The jungle's always amped up, and when they got Jamar Chase, it was even more. So I love that part of it. That in back-to-back years, this Bengals end of year playoff push, we see teams like Philly and Buffalo really struggle this part of the year for whatever reason, and this is where the Bengals are seemingly playing their best football. They did last year, and
Right.
so far off the bye, 2 really hard road wins. Now they go back home for 2 more against KC and Cleveland, 2 big games that they need to win, and they're at home.
Yeah. No, I like I said, we said in our bye week episode that we needed to go 5-3 in our last 8 or better. And we've already won for the first 2 on the road. So, like I said, now I'm eyeballing an 11, 12 win season. I'm not happy with 5-3 now that we've already got 2 in the bank. And when you look at Tampa Bay and you look at some of the teams we still have on the schedule, you win the Tampa Bay, you win the Cleveland, you win the Baltimore. We're going to be in the driver's seat. So thanks to that, Baltimore meltdown, I don't think they'll lose this week, but that was a pure gift in Jacksonville. There's no way. That's why I hate strength of schedule. Everybody talks strength of schedule, how easy the Ravens have it. They go down to Jacksonville and lose, on any given Sunday. So
Baltimore's played 12 offensive quarters since the Saints game. They've scored 3 touchdowns in 12 quarters since then. And I know a lot of because Mark Andrews is still hurt, and J.K. Dobbins has been out, and Rashad Bateman, their offense is pretty much nothing without Bateman on the field. Baltimore is not at all a lock to win this division.
no.
And even if they had beaten Jacksonville, they still have to play 3 division games before going on the road and going to Cincinnati in week 18. Like, they still have to face Cleveland twice. Pittsburgh twice. And they
Yes.
still have to face Cleveland again, who now was Deshaun Watson, who they're going to be better when Deshaun Watson is playing quarterback
Right.
for them. I know he's a shitty, I guess, a shitty person. I'm not going to talk about that.
Staying
But like,
aside of
I'm not,
hold us on Watson thing,
but
but they are a better team with him.
of course they're going to be
Yeah.
better with Deshaun Watson, and they had severe limitations with Brissett, and they still kicked our ass, and that's going to be really scary this time next week when we're talking about the Cleveland game,
Yeah.
because I know it's at home, but they kicked the lights off our tails at home last year. That was when we were like, the Bengals really good, because we had just lost to the Jets and then got blown out by Cleveland
Yeah.
in back-to-back weeks. So like, are the Bengals really that good this time, or not around this time last year? And then they went on a huge run. Like,
Oh
we
yeah.
want
No.
to do this year.
They answered it, and it all started in Vegas. So, yeah, no. But one thing we're not, so I had thought that we were really playing for the wild card because I didn't see us having the tiebreaker against Baltimore because of division record, and I expected them to win last week. So I thought we'd still be chasing a game, so a tie wouldn't help us. Now we're already tied with them. Hey, if we can just match them punch for punch down the stretch, get to week 18, we can win the division that week. So now I'm saying the division's and the odds said it. We were 3-1 to win the AFC North prior to last week. Now we're 1 plus 170. So the odds literally got cut in half with that Baltimore loss because the odds makers see the same thing. They say, well, now there's a possibility the Bengals win. So
I will also say this. I've been looking. I like this time of year looking into the future, some future bets to see which numbers are wrong. Bengals have a good chance this week. Joe Burrow's MVP odds right now are 18-1. If they win this game, his stats with Mahomes are pretty similar. They both have the same amount of touchdowns to interception ratio. It's pretty similar. But if they win this game, those are gonna maybe cut in half. Just if they were based off them winning this game. There are 6 games left. That's a third of the season. You don't think Joe Burrow can close that gap?
Oh,
To at least get down to maybe like 5 or 4-1. I already took it at 18-1 because I do think they're going to win the game. So the implied value is certainly there for me because I think they're going to win the game. So I'm just like the odds next week are going to be worse if my prediction comes true and they do lose and they do win. So just a quick look, but
Oh,
I did see that they were 3-1 to win the division. I think I thought they were going to beat Tennessee. I thought Jacksonville was going to beat Baltimore, so I should have pounced on that. And now it's
yeah,
just value's
I'm in the
kind of
same
gone.
boat. I do the
But
same
yeah,
thing you do because that's why I looked at that. I always look. Also, I bet some of the stuff before the season, and I'm telling you right now, Joe Burrow was 14-1 before the season, and I bet it. So I love your 18-1 because I'm already sitting at 14-1.
yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna see how things play out. But now the division's there, and I thought the same thing. I looked at it and I said, well, let me see how they do. But I expected it to be the same because Baltimore would win, and it would still be 3-1 this week. And then I looked and I saw it at plus 170. So,
If the season ended today, Mahomes would certainly win. But you know how the national media works. It's going to be annoying. But if the Bengals do win this game, there's going to be a lot of chatter about Burrow being Mahomes' daddy, which is going to be funny. And then automatically, based on the transitive property of math, Joe Burrow is going to find himself pretty heavily in the MVP conversation with the likes of Hurts and Tua and Mahomes.
right.
And there's still six games left after, or 5 games left after the Chiefs game against some really good teams. That if he wins against and plays very good, Joe Burrow can win the MVP.
Yeah. My own problem is that I thought Zach deserved coach of the year last year. And I thought giving it to Vrabel, who basically took a playoff team and just, got him to the 1 seed. Zach turned a losing team into a Super Bowl team. Just getting him to the playoffs, I thought Zach deserved it. We don't get the benefit of the doubt. So if all things are even, we're not going to get it. But maybe I think Burrow's changing that narrative. I know a lot of people really like Joe Burrow. I mean, he's changed the whole narrative of this team, the whole perspective, and how we're viewed. So
Yeah,
I'm all
people
on.
talk
I
about
would
it.
love to see Joe Burrow win, obviously with money down on it. I would love to see him win.
Yeah, I mean,
MVP.
people talk about us now. Like for even when the Bengals were good at the beginning of the decade, no one ever talked about the Bengals
Yeah.
because they had Marvin Lewis and Andy Dalton. Those were the two of the most boring guys in the league.
Yeah. So no, and
Like now they have T. Higgins making fun of Jamar Chase for eating a hot dog on the sideline. I mean, that's
right.
just it's
Yeah.
like, come on.
So, all right. Well, with all that said, let's jump into our predictions because that'll say a lot. I think we know this is going to be a close game. This is even though the Bengals are an underdog at home this week. I mean, they're a 2-point dog, which means they would be a 5 or 6 point dog if it was in Kansas City. They could put that chip on their shoulder as well and say, "Hey, wait a second. We're at home and we're the dog." But this is still to me, this is a coin flip game. It really is. It's gonna a penalty, a turnover, it's gonna that could swing the game. So you want to go first? What do you got as your prediction?
Yeah, I think this could be the last time the Bengals are underdogs all year.
I agree.
Up until the playoffs. Like looking at it, like maybe like I would say that they have a better chance of being a dog in Tampa than they do being a dog at home against Buffalo.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
don't
I
and
agree, especially when Buffalo's playing and you don't know what Josh Allen's health is going to be. Think about the beginning of the season. Josh Allen was like the shoe-in for the MVP, and now he's just been passed. I mean, Mahomes is passing.
yeah, I mean that's never a shoe in for MVP at the beginning of the year. People
Right.
like to make their narratives and then within 5 weeks it's just all wrong because you can't predict what happens in this league, especially with 17 games. Like J- Josh Allen being the preseason favorite to win the MVP was just based off of what happened in a span of 20 minutes in the divisional round last year. Like that's
Right.
it. Like that's why Josh Allen was a favorite because people were
That
like,
that
yeah,
that and his
he's
performance
gonna
against the Rams.
he's gonna avenge what happened. I'm like, no, he's not. Like we 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 know who Josh Allen is.
Right.
Like
So, all
he'll
right.
win an MVP eventually, but Josh Allen being a favorite, that was just based off of what happened in the
Right.
divisional game in the span of
So,
20 minutes. All right, my prediction. I'm the homer. I think the Bengals are gonna win, but I really do. I love the vibe with the team right now. Um, they're not scared. Like this team, like the Chiefs have succeeded in the years past just because we have Mahomes. We're gonna, show you what we got. And the Bengals, they answer that. They do the same thing. Like they love flexing on teams. They love throwing jump balls and just you have no chance to defend them. People were like, um, saying the Bengals were gonna regress this year because of their success with jump balls 50-50 balls last year. Here's the thing though, is like they're not 50-50 balls with this team.
Not with
They're
Higgins.
not. They're more like 70-30 balls.
Yeah.
With the Wickers, you have the best jump ball, best jump ball thrower of the football in the league, and then you have the best jump ball receiver in the league, and then you have the other best jump ball receiver in the league, and it's just like death by a million cuts. It's just like, who are you gonna pick your poison? Like, who are you gonna guard?
Right.
They're gonna get Spagnuolo in cover 3 looks. They're going to take their shots. They have to. I think it's gonna be more of a chess match than people think, but there's gonna be points scored. I have Bengals 31-30 in a really close one.
Okay. Well, we're close. I'm also going the homer, although part of me, it's like I would rather, if we face the Chiefs again in the postseason, I'd rather have lost this game and won the one in the postseason.
I'll tell you what though, so people don't think I'm a complete homer. When the Bengals win this game, I am forcing myself to not pick them next week.
Okay.
So I really hope they win, because I don't think they're going to beat Cleveland next week. I think that's a letdown, and they're going to lose.
You can go back to the playoff preview that I recorded last year, and I picked the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
I said I don't see us beating Andy Reid twice. This one's in Kansas City. I think this has been an amazing season, but I literally picked based on that. So, like, part of me with that brain says I'd rather lose this one and win the one in the postseason, but you take the games as they come. And I'm going to be a homer this week because this team, like I said, is coming off their best performance. I think Anarumo has the answer. I think this team's ready. And I was 30-28 is what I was on my score. So I was right there with you. And like I said, it could just very well easily be 31-30 Kansas City. This is a game, a key penalty, a key turnover. That's what's going to decide this game late. Because this is, as far as I'm concerned, these are the two best teams in the AFC.
I would completely agree. I think that's the smoke has cleared with Buffalo. They're banged up. Allen's playing hero ball. He's like a roller coaster. Joe Burrow's not a roller coaster. He's a stable elite quarterback.
Yeah,
so,
no, and
I would
Baltimore fans may take exception to this, but look at your team the last week. Look how they lose. The fundamentals they're not doing. They're not putting up enough points. Lamar is, up. Like I said,
there's no reason to say the Ravens are better than us.
Right.
We had a lead against them with a minute left. That game in Baltimore in prime time, Bengals played their worst football, their worst brand of football, I should say. And they almost went out and won the game.
Yeah, and we kicked the field goal, and I think we win that game. I know you're talking about the sequence of plays and all that, but I still think we kicked that field goal, we win that game. So that was it. That was a very winnable game for us. So,
I expect both teams to score 30. I think both teams have to score 30, so they will. I think the Bengals get it on another Evan McPherson field goal.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It's funny that you talk about, because I was looking at my fantasy sheets and all of them have McPherson down this week. They're expecting a lot of PATs and not a lot of field goals. So when teams get in these two teams, when they get in the red zone, they're very successful in punching it in. So
they're first and fourth in the league. Chiefs are number 1, Bengals are number 4 in red zone success.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, as I said, if you don't subscribe, please subscribe. It's all we ask. Check out Jake's podcast. He does some great work. So definitely check out Jake's podcast. And and please put your comments, put your score predictions down there. Love to see what you have to say. We'll be back with the recap. Well, I don't know if Jake's going to be available or not. Heath will probably be here with me. Hopefully we'll get the 3 of us on again. And hopefully we're celebrating a win in the jungle, and it's 3 in a row after the bye. So with that, I'm going to say, hoo-day, everybody. Take care.